North Dakota's budget took a $1 billion hit today. State agencies are facing their biggest budget cuts in our state's history at just over 4%. But other than that, it's been a pretty good day. Sounds like we're going to be using up also most of the budget stabilization fund as well in order to help prop up some of these state agency budgets. So with us tonight to discuss this and also preview the Iowa caucuses is Congressman Kevin Cramer joining us live from Washington, D.C. Congressman Cramer, for time's sake, I'm going to jump right in here. Big news, obviously. I know you saw this about the budget. You are covering oil often and things of that nature. Your thoughts on seeing North Dakota come in $1 billion below forecast just in the general fund?
Well, I think you have to put it, Chris, in historical context. Yeah, 4% cut or $1 billion shortfall in the context of austerity is a lot, but in the context of the type of growth that we've seen both in revenue and, of course, in spending, this probably shouldn't be a big shock. We are a commodity-based economy in North Dakota. We ride the waves of commodity prices, whether they be agriculture or energy. This is one of the hardships. Now, it's a little more extreme probably than even the worst case scenario, obviously, but I think it's also an important lesson to all of us. Now, far be it for state legislators in North Dakota to have to take advice from a congressman overseeing a $19 trillion debt, but it's a good reminder that we need to collect, aggressively, liberally, and spend conservatively, and then we'll find ourselves in better shape.
You mentioned the wave and sort of riding this wave, Congressman. I guess what I want to get at is how long will this wave last? Here's what I mean specifically. Sure. Today it was announced because of the Iran deal, which Senator Heidi Heitkamp voted for. Iran just had $100 billion released to its accounts that it can now use. We haven't even really seen their oil hit the markets yet, and we're already hovering at $30 a barrel. When they start throwing 500,000, 1 million barrels of oil per day on the market, how long do you see this thing at? $30? Some analysts are saying $10. And what does that mean for North Dakota?
Well, I'm not an analyst nor an expert in the markets, but remember when we lifted the oil export ban, we said that this could happen, that we would see a flattening of the Brent and the WTI indexes. That certainly happened. We said we'd see a lowering in at the pump price. Certainly that happened. We'd see this flattening out. Now, we didn't anticipate probably this big a drop globally, but at the same time, Chris, what I would say is I don't expect this to last for years. I don't expect to see $100 oil real soon either. But remember, let's take the Saudis as an example. They're driving a lot of the glut, the overproduction, and they can afford to produce oil at a lower price than we can, but they can't afford to run their country at a lower price than we can. I actually think will prevail, we being the United States in this. We have a much more diverse economy and much better cutting-edge technology and advancements. We've already seen the price of a well, cut in half over the last few years. It's painful for sure. There's going to be some consolidation for sure, but I don't think there's any reason to be overly bearish on the oil markets going forward.
Well, I mean, CLR, Continental Resources, making big cuts. Obviously, we'll see what happens with what's going on in that market. Let's move on to the Iowa caucus. That's been the big talk of the day. If you don't mind, Congressman, I know you've been around party politics for quite some time. You start talking about Iowa caucuses, and it's like, what in the world is going on here? Just give us a quick Iowa caucuses for dummies synopsis, if you will.
Well, I think the Iowa caucus, and I haven't always been a fan. I used to be envious, is what I was. When I was tourism director, I pushed for an early primary bill in North Dakota, and my friend Andy Maragos carried the bill and carried the day, and we passed it. I love the Iowa caucus because I think Iowa is the perfect laboratory for retail politics, and you size all of these candidates up. It's a sweepstakes like never before. This really is the Super Bowl in my lifetime. I've never seen anything like it in terms of the attention and the interest by grassroots Republicans on one night in one state in the middle of the country. I think it's fantastic. So what's going to happen on the Republican side, of course, is a whole bunch of people are going to show up at some 1,100 or so different locations, churches, schools, public buildings, we have living rooms, and cast their vote for their preferred candidate. And I think it's a rich part of our tradition in the United States.
So let's say, hypothetically, Cruz wins tonight, and does that mean then come the convention that Cruz gets all of Iowa's delegates, or is that correct?
No, No,
Okay.
it doesn't. No, Iowa does it. Every state does it a little different. I shouldn't say every state does it different. There's a number of ways it can happen. There are proportionate delegates. So if you have a caucus, and RNC, Republican National Committee rules, have changed, evolved a little bit over the years. So if you have a proportionate state, each candidate gets the portion of the delegates that vote for them, assuming they reach a certain threshold. And I think that threshold in Iowa is 15%, something like that.
Sounds...
So they can all go to one place, or they can go, they can be split 2 or 3 ways. But more than anything, Chris, what I always say about these early caucuses and primaries is they create the momentum for the eventual winner, right? I mean, at the end of the day, most of the time you get into early spring, there's only one candidate still standing in each party, because people start dropping out as they end at the bottom of the barrel, or as their money dries up, or as the momentum clearly is going another way. You asked about Senator Cruz, if he should win. That will change the dynamic a little, because Donald Trump's hoping for, as he says, to run the table. That's never happened. That's a possibility this go around. So, but Iowa is full of surprises. It always has been.
I agree. I mean, I think we had Santorum in 2008, or maybe it was Huckabee or vice versa, but those have been the past 2 winners since 2008. I know you're not a gambling man, Congressman, and if you were, who are you putting your money on tonight to win?
Well, there's part of me that kind of wants Trump, just because it would be fun to see him run the table and see something like that happen. I don't really have a favorite horse. On the other hand, there's nothing quite like a surprise. If a guy like Marco Rubio could come from third up and win it, that's always fun too. So if I was going to sort of pick a surprise, it would be Marco Rubio's momentum sort of carries him to the top, and then everybody has to scramble. The deck gets reshuffled, and go to New Hampshire with a clean slate. I think that's pretty exciting. I love it, because the longer this carries out, of course, the more the grassroots Republican has to say about who the nominee is, and that's the way it ought to be.
I mean, I love this time of year. All right, let's talk about you. Announced your re-election late last week. We had Libertarian candidate Jack Seaman on the show last week as well. He made an announcement on Tuesday. We started talking about military and budgets and things of that nature. I want to share with you a bit of our exchange from last week and give you a chance to comment, sir.
Okay. Well, there's lots of places we can cut the budget. There's no doubt about that. If we stopped waging all these wars and all these interventions in the Middle East and stop spending money,
so
that way we'd have a lot of...
you're going to cut the military to go give humanitarian aid to Syrian refugees?
We'd have a lot of money left over for humanitarian aid.
Please, so
Yeah.
what I'm hearing you say is, hey, Chris, we got a lot of access to the military, so you cut the military budget to go invest that money in humanitarian aid for Syrian refugees?
Here's a little factoid for you. If we cut the military budget by 50%, we would still outspend by $100 billion Russia and China
So I'm going to take that as a yes.
So, yeah,
to my
absolutely.
question. Congressman Cramer, I got 60 seconds. You and I both know the Middle East right now is a complete mess, and just your chance to comment on, because he said at the end there, yeah, Chris, that's what I'm saying. I would cut the military budget to have more money to send humanitarian aid to Syria. Your comments, sir?
Well, I suspect he's had time to sleep on it and rethink that answer. If not, I can tell you that Jack Seaman's a wonderful guy. He's a great patriot, and I like him a lot. And he's a real gentleman and cares about the right things. But the highest priority of the federal government is defense of this nation. And to somehow suggest we should cut the military by 50% at a time when we're trying to increase it, bring us back to at least World War II era level. We are the leader of the free world. And I think Jack's answer there is indicative of why this is not going to be the year of the libertarian. And they have a wonderful contribution to the political discourse in this country. I think libertarians belong in the Republican camp, but I think that exchange right there tells you the problems that libertarians are going to have in this climate. But I look forward to seeing Jack on the trail. He's, like I said, he's always a gentleman and a true patriot.
Well, some people would say, hey, let's protect our borders. We're not going to solve the problem. At least it's going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's a Shia, Sunni thing. We aren't going to solve that deal. But Congressman Cramer, we appreciate your time. We'll let you get to the Iowa caucuses that are kicking off in about 11 minutes, okay?
Look forward to it, man. Thanks for the opportunity.
Right, thanks a million. Would love to know your thoughts after the exchange with Jack Seaman there. Congressman Cramer's thoughts, Iowa caucuses. Who do you think is going to pull out and be victorious tonight? Is it the Trumpster, Cruz, maybe Rubio? And then who's going to win on the Democrat side? Can feel the burn, pull it off. He's been hitting it hard the past few nights. The rooms have been packed. Stay with us. Your feedback coming up.